I am Joe Hero, and this is Somewhere Out There. Now, we've been covering some of Bud Hopkins' material regarding to UFOs and the alien abduction phenomenon. We're going to deviate slightly for this episode, and the reason for that is that I felt it was imperative to share an actual experience with the audience, and this is one that I have had. In order to do so, I'm going to set the stage, and we're going to look at a little bit different material this time. We're going to look into L.A. Marzulli's book, The Alien Interviews. I think that it suffices to say that it would be important enough to include this in L.A.'s books, so I will include it here as well. And that is the concept of Mothman. Has anybody out there heard of the Mothman prophecies? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on that from L.A. Marzulli's book, The Alien Interviews. Now, the time was 1966 through 1967. The area was Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And this is regarding a manifestation of a large humanoid winged creature that appeared on numerous occasions. Now, John Keel wrote a book entitled The Mothman Prophecies, and I recommend that you get it and read the specifics of what happened there. Now, other than just the multiple sightings of this large humanoid creature, there were other strange events that accompanied that time frame as well, and it turns out that Point Pleasant, West Virginia has become a hotbed, literally, for UFO and the paranormal phenomenon. Well, these other strange events included numerous UFO sightings during the same time period. Mysterious quote-unquote men in black, almost like the movie, if you've seen them, and animal mutilations. Now, there is another book that contains eyewitness accounts from the Mothman incidents that weren't included in Keel's book. And that book is called Behind the Red Eyes by Jeff Wamsley. Now, here's how the prophecies came about. John Keel was the individual that wrote the book, The Mothman Prophecies, and the prophecies originated partially due to some anonymous phone calls that were mysterious that John would receive periodically, and the caller's voice would prophesy ominous happenings that were events that were supposed to occur in the near future. And it culminated with the collapse of the Silver Bridge over the Ohio River, that being one of those prophecies that actually came true. 46 people lost their lives in that incident. 2 people's bodies were never recovered. Now, one thing that is shared unanimously across all of these numerous sightings, and we're talking about literally hundreds of sightings in a short time period there, is that a overwhelming fear, terror, or evil is reported by all of these individuals that have happened to have an encounter with Mothman. And one of the most notable encounters was 2 teenage couples in 1996. So the sightings of Mothman have not been exclusive to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, nor have they been exclusive to the years 1966, 67, and thereabouts. It's been other states he's been seen in, or entities like him. Now, this noteworthy occurrence that is one of the most popular was that 2 teenage couples in 1996 were driving in the outskirts of Point Pleasant, and they noticed him from a far distance due to his glowing red eyes that were visible, and he was standing on a bank. He apparently leaped into the sky, because he has bat-like wings, and proceeded. The individuals in the car were terrified and decided to drive back to town and report it to the police. And as they started doing so, Mothman swooped down over the back of their car and chased them, it would seem, all the way back to town, and they were driving up to 105 miles an hour because they were in such a state of terror. And the whole time he dove back and forth over the top of the car and stayed with them the whole time. They couldn't shake him. He stayed with them until they ran into the lights of the armory. So this car chase is one of the noteworthy incidents involving Mothman. Now, along this Mothman genre of sightings, L.A. Marzulli was on the Coast to Coast show with George Noory, and an interview was conducted with two kids, Luke and Blaine, that had an event that happened in Medford, Oregon. Now, they both independently were interviewed, and they agreed that there was a dragon that they had seen in the middle of the night flying outside their window. And unlike Mothman, he had the head of a human, but yet the pointed ears like an elf. And he hovered outside their window for some 4 to 5 minutes, and he had about a 3-foot long tail, was green in nature, scales. Unlike Mothman, he had his tiny clawed hands were at the end of his wings, and he had blue-green eyes. This incident was documented well by these two boys at a later time. They were 5 and 6 years old approximately when it happened, and they were interviewed at ages around 10 years old. So, and also included in the alien interviews, L.A. Marzulli has an interview with Mr. Lawrence Gray, the only man that L.A. has ever known who had a spiritual victory over this alleged Mothman. And so right now, this is very important, and you'll see in the post, it would seem that I'm just talking in a roundabout way, and you just might say, Joe, how does this pertain to UFOs or the alien abduction phenomenon? Well, I had asked people to share from the audience any experiences of the paranormal or alien encounters that they may have had. And so, what I'm doing here is I'm setting the stage to share with you an encounter that I had, which would involve the paranormal. And as we shall see eventually, and I keep saying that, these phenomena share a common origin, I do believe. So, the time for this experience that Lawrence Gray had was 1966. That would also, it was in Point Pleasant. And he had been going to church one evening with his wife, and they had a small daughter at the time. And their home was across the street from the church. And as they came home that evening, Lawrence felt that there was somebody in the house. And so he didn't voice his opinion to his wife, but he went in, searched the whole home, the bedrooms, the living room. Nobody was apparently there. However, he just had this unnerving feeling that somebody was in the house. And he felt that they might be in the basement. Now, he had kept the basement door closed and locked with a wire hook. It turned out that the hook was unlatched. And so he made his way into the basement and looked around, but he did find nothing. So later that evening they went to bed, and at around 3 a.m. in the morning, he woke up, instantly awake, and when he turned his head, there was Mothman standing in his bedroom. And here's how he describes Mothman, because this is of keen interest, both to myself and I'm imagining to you as well. And as you will see, this will play into my personal encounter. Now, he describes Mothman as that he was lit up with a silver glow, and that he wasn't bright, but yet he had a glow to him. That he was about 6 feet tall. He was standing at the end of the bed. He was looking down across the bed at him. He had wings, feathers, eyes that were sunken into his head, and no neck. Pretty much that his head was sunk down into his shoulders. Down from his hips, he claims that it wore a kind of robe-like thing. That's how he describes it. and it had a dirty lunar color. He recounts to LA how he was frozen in fear. Stark terror seized him, and all he could do was think to claim the blood of Jesus Christ, over and over again. Now, he was a born-again Christian, and he did it over and over in his mind. And as he did so, the figure just vanished away into nothingness. So that was the only time that somebody has had a quote-unquote victory over Mothman and in a personal encounter. And what I intend to do is share my personal encounter with you. Stay tuned, read the post. This gets quite heavy, and my encounter wasn't exclusive to myself. My young daughter as well had an event occur regarding this Mothman. Now, I will take the time briefly here to say that over the years and through many documented cases and sightings, this Mothman would appear to take several different variations. There are slight differences in the description of him or some of his features, characteristics. And so, by some professionals, researchers, and even people that have had the encounters with this mysterious and terrifying figure, it seems that there is a frequent mention and an opinion that he probably represents a demonic force, which would imply that we're talking about a spiritual issue here, something from the spiritual realm. And he's even been described as ultra-dimensional in nature. Fairly curious, since I have described intradimensional beings with aliens and the UFO phenomenon as well. Stay tuned, read the posts that are coming, and you will see that some of these incidences may strike closer to home. Truly, something is happening somewhere out there.